So without further ado, I want to introduce Commissioners Tnoney DeBone, Chair Phil Henderson, and Commissioner Patti Adair. And we're happy to have them here tonight. They have a presentation they're going to give to you. We'll do a Q&A at the very end. So make some mental notes of what's most important to you and what you want to talk about. So I hand it over to you, whoever is first. And welcome, and thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Katie. And thank all of you for coming tonight and joining us. Thank 10 Barrel for allowing us to come, the sponsors, et cetera. It's exciting to be here. We really look forward to doing this every year just because it's kind of fun to get out and talk about what we're doing every day. We don't do that much in the off years when we're not doing elections that aren't really kind of in our conference or, in our meeting rooms, et cetera. So it's really fun to talk. We've put together a pretty thorough presentation here. It reminds me of one of our land use hearings we had where somebody had about 100 pages of PowerPoint. Ours isn't quite that bad, but we'll try to go through it fast so we have some time for questions. But we did spend a lot of time going through revisions of it. Our staff, Laura and Eric, are here that help with that. And a lot of the other county department heads and officials are here. And hopefully you can meet some of them. So the first, basically what we're going to do is introduction, what we do, budget highlights, current topics, and questions. So for introductions, this is your new county commission riding posse. We participated in the Sisters Rodeo Parade and had a lot of fun in that. All three of us rode, and we've decided we were going to ride in some other parades, and so we thought we'd share that. I'm Phil Henderson. I've been a commissioner for 2.5 years. This is my 30th year in Bend. I came here as an attorney, and then I been a home builder. And it's really an honor to be a commissioner in this county. It's just a fantastic place. We work with a lot of fantastic people, and I just really appreciate being here. So I'll introduce ourselves.
So good evening, everybody. Tnoney DeBone, Commissioner. It kind of rolls off my tongue like that, but yeah, I've been honored to be representing. This is my 9th year. My wife grew up here originally, and we just kept getting more and more involved, so I ran for commissioner, and I've been kind of deep into it ever since. I do represent everyone in the county. I'm honored to be able to deal with the land use and the different topics that come in, the budget authority as a board of commissioners. We've got a lot of different things, a lot of slides tonight. I do have the clicker. We're going to try to move it along and hold your questions, but please get engaged with questions as it comes up.
Good evening, I'm Patti Adair, and I'm the newest commissioner. I just started January 7th, who's counting? And I also want you to know that that's Bobby Lou that I'm writing.
There you go.
Bobby Lou is a part of my team. She helped me in my campaign, and I actually had the privilege of writing her last Thursday in Redmond at the parade. It was a great event, and I want you guys to know that Sharon, our administrative assistants in the county, even got us serapes. So now we have our name on the back of our saddle. So we've really stepped up. And then tonight, or actually this afternoon, Sheriff Nelson invited us to ride with him and the posse. So we're going to really be awesome guys in our next parade. I want to thank my husband Bob for coming tonight. He loves these things, and but I do so appreciate him coming, and thank you for coming and caring about our community and all the things that we as commissioners can accomplish. It is an honor to serve you, and thank you for coming.
So we're going to talk a little bit about first what counties do, and this is just a profile of all the different elected officials in the county, which there's the 3 commissioners, but you can see across there all the other positions that we have that are elected by you and the people. And except for the middle is Tom Anderson, who's our administrator, and he's actually filling the position of our treasurer now because our treasurer was also our finance director, decided to retire early, so he's filling both. But that's kind of the structure of all the different elected officials that you elect at the county, and then underneath that are the various departments, many of which you're familiar with probably.
So we're going to go through some of these services. The community development, in fact, we've got our department heads here. So Nick Lelak, Tim Shimke at the garbage and recycling, so that not landfill. Jeff Hines is our new fair director. So these are our department heads. Yeah, so if he's in the room, yep, Jeff's over here. Ed Keith, natural resources. So we don't have managed forest lands in Deschutes County, but we do help the wildland urban interface be a partner with the forest, U.S. Forest Service, but also as private property owners, what do we do about the forests and the forest land use planning? And then Chris Doty in our transportation and road department. So these are all those community services that we provide.
I get to speak about the health department. It's one of our largest. We have over 300 employees, and I don't know if you just read the article in the Bend Bulletin, but suicide is up 33% from 1999. So our public health department, our behavioral health department are all very busy, very engaged, and I think we have the finest department in the state. Our people apply for grants that even the state of Oregon is not applying for. So we have to be really proud, very proactive on what we do with our health department. You remember the measles outbreak in the nation earlier. We had a bit of a scare. It meant that they had to spend a lot of hours working. They did a lot of vaccinations. And it's always, it's always good. Please call our health department if you have any questions. A lot of people work there, and they're very, very happy to help you. And then again, we have our veterans department. We have over 13,000 veterans in Deschutes County. They're an amazing part of the people that live here, and we want to serve them. Currently, the county is serving over 5,400 veterans. Sometimes they have a hard time with their applications, and our staff is completely trained and able to assist them with their applications in order to make sure that they receive every benefit that they are worthy and deserving of. So we just did a remodel on the building, and or actually the office portion, and it's really quite lovely, and they're thrilled with it. So it would be nice for you to stop by and just meet some of the people that make a difference in Deschutes County.
So another part of our role is that as the governing body of the Deschutes County, we're also the governing body of Black Butte Ranch, the Sun River Service District, 911, and the, can't see.
4-H.
Oh, yeah, Extension and 4-H. I can't see that or this. So, so those are roles we also play. And then we also work with the cities of both in planning. We work with community development in Sisters. We also work with the Sheriff's Office, provides public safety and law enforcement in Sisters and Lapine. So we have kind of roles with other communities throughout the county.
So here's a couple of the offices. So the office of the assessor, so Scott Langton is here, and then also the office of the clerk, so Nancy Blankenship. So the elections process is a county function. The ballots are picked up and counted at our second floor of our county building. And then the annual assessment and taxation. So all the properties in Deschutes County, inside and outside the cities, managing to the total value and creating those tax bills and putting those line items together. A lot of calculations go into that, so we have a whole department doing that, and they do a great job.
Public safety. That is one of our major focuses, as you might well be aware. I will be addressing 911 a little bit later tonight, but we have done a lot of good things in 911. It's currently working tip-top order, and that's a good news. Thank you, Shane. I think I've spent the entire day with Shane Nelson, our sheriff. We were at a homeless meeting this morning for 3 hours, and then we had another meeting at 2, and then one at 3 with OLCC. So we see a lot of our sheriff, and I know he's always working really hard. So thank you for being here tonight. Our district attorney, John Hummel, I haven't seen John, but he is an important part of our county and public safety, of course, as you might imagine. The Justice Family Court has been run by Judge Ray Crutchley, which is amazing what they do in order to keep families together. If someone has a substance abuse problem and they have been accepted into his program, they immediately go for help. Currently, he has 27 families in that program, and I think it's one of the most worthwhile things that we can do in order to keep families together. You know, we have way too many foster children in Oregon, and I think Deschutes County needs to be a leader on the other way. We also have our community justice program, the parole and probation program, and we signed a new contract with our medical examiner, and I know you must think, oh my gosh, it is a busy job, and she is a doctor. She does a great service for our county, and we so appreciate her. And I didn't see her tonight, but I'm glad that we were able to sign a new contract with her.
So we're going to talk a little bit about our budget highlights. One of the things we thought, we've talked before about what are county taxes. You know, the county sends out your tax bill, your property tax bill, but only part of it is the county, really. And so we made those highlighted in yellow there. So you've got the general fund, which funds a variety of services, the county-wide law enforcement, which is the sheriff's office and the jail, county extension 4-H and 911. In a lot of counties, also the library used to be a part of the county here, but isn't now. But those are really the taxes that the county, you pay to the county to operate on your property taxes, and you can see kind of an estimated bill of $577 for a house. I think it was $375,000 or something, $360,000. So that's kind of a breakdown, so you're familiar with that.
So we're going to talk about some of the different funds, revenue sources at this point. So, and you're going to notice everything has been going up. I mean, that's what we're seeing. The actual from 19, we're just looking at finalizing those numbers, and then the budget for next year. So this is a number, $75 million, and these are those local dollars. These are the dollars that are on our line item for Deschutes County general government, the sheriff services, rural patrol, jail operations, and then the general fund is used for the district attorney's office, and then there's another line item for 911. So this is the kind of dollars we're looking at. So the budget is it's $500 million, but that's kind of some accounting back and forth. So these are the real dollars coming from our tax bills, and those are the ones on your tax bill that you'll see annually.
So I get to talk about revenue sources from the gas tax. You know how the gas tax has gone up from the transportation bill in 2017. And so you see that, and you also realize your fees for your licensing have also gone up. So that money is significantly improving our bottom line and the projects that we're doing in the county and the improvements. I remember the evening of February 25th, I drove home from Redmond. There wasn't very much snow on the road, and I was going slowly, but then the next morning, oh my gosh, we even had to close the county that Monday morning because of all the snow. I received inquiries from several residents that live in the county, and I felt like our road department did an outstanding job clearing those roads. It's really hard when you have several feet of snow and you really are thinking it's going to be spring because it was almost March. So I want to thank them for all the good work they do. Chris is exceptional. He answers his cell phone even when he's on vacation.
And this is another one for you.
Okay. Oh, this one is amazing. You guys, you remember when we did have the crash here? The tourism dollars really never went down that much. I know housing prices did, but tourism dollars really didn't go down. Well, this last year, just ended June 30th, the revenue for tourism, the room tax went up 9.5%. This is huge. Our tourism dollars just seem to be going up and up significantly year by year. And those funds, of course, are used for our sheriff's patrol. They're used for our tourism, to keep promoting tourism. And we use it for the fair and expo. So Jeff, that's one place where we're going to get some funds for you. A couple new hotels are going in by the fair. And if we get that third hotel and upgrade our grounds, because we have the best grounds probably in the nation now. And yes. So anyway, it's been wonderful. Tourism really does make a difference here, but those dollars are restricted where we can spend them.
So these numbers all add up to that larger budget I was referring to. So this is the landfill tip fees, And notice items are going up there too. The numbers are just climbing. That's the environment we're in right now. But this you can think of as the people's business of solid waste. It's an enterprise fund with its own income and expense and balance sheet. The fairgrounds is run like that also. So those are the two enterprise funds of Deschutes County. This solid waste revenue and total tons delivered is an economic indicator. It's used by the University of Oregon. If you see on the front page quarterly on the bulletin, usually it has the economic indicator of Central Oregon. This is one of those variables that's used. There's only one landfill. We've got our franchise haulers. We have our partners recycling and doing the different items out there, but one landfill, not landfill where all the waste goes. So as you can see, the numbers are going up, and all these numbers add up together to make our annual budget.
So those were just some of the budget highlights, I guess, that we thought it was interesting to just see the various, how really revenues and across the board really we're fortunate to live in a county where those have gone up. There's a lot of counties in the state that's not happening in, and we know that commissioners from a lot of those, they have a lot of challenges just providing things like law enforcement or jails or health departments, whatever. So we're really fortunate it's really the result of a lot of good planning, and a lot of people have moved here that have improved the economy over 20 years, really. So we're going to just cover some current topics. I'm going to lead off. The first one on our list is the Fair and Expo Center. And so I've been passing out some of these buttons today. If you didn't get one, they're for our 100th anniversary of the county fair. We've got buttons over on there's a barrel over there. So we want anybody that hasn't got one to get one, to wear it before the fair. We're pretty excited about this. There's really nothing that says county government and county stuff more than a fair does, I guess. That's how I feel. I know the other commissioners were excited about it also. We really do have one of the preeminent fairgrounds in the country, and have done some things this year that really are going to even further that. We've added on gaining 140 acres to the south of the current fairgrounds. So our land area is big enough that we could expand our facilities. And we're looking right now at what we can do. We've paid off our loan for the fairgrounds, the capital structure and et cetera that's there now. So we're looking at what's the next steps with that. And it's one of the challenges we're going to have with the fair board and as commissioners over the next year. The fair is the July 31st to the 4th of August. And we did a couple things. So get the pins. There's also 100-year pins, which are pretty cool. So those are over there too. But we also, it's fun to get things for the ride. So we gave out tonight, there's some envelopes under 5 of the seats out here. If you have one, that's the admission to the rides and things. So everybody now, we're gonna take a little break. Look at your seat, or get up, look at your chair. If you happen to be next to a vacant chair, I guess you can claim that one. So if you've got it, so we've got one here. And these are admissions for, I believe it's for rides. We felt the concerts, we have concerts every 4 nights. Those are free. You have to figure out how to get the tickets, but they're available a lot of different means. And we have the rodeos, but the rides still cost. So if you got one of those, there's supposed to be 5. How many did we find? We got 1, 2. So better check these front seats. You people that were afraid to sit in the front. And there should be 5. Eric?
There is one there.
There should be 5 of them.
Yeah.
So whoever gets to it can get it, I guess.
Maybe the cleanup crew.
And so a little bit of information. There's wristbands every day. You can get those starting June 17th at all the Central Oregon Buy Mart stores. That's a pretty popular thing for people to do, so they don't have to keep going through the, getting tickets each day. And the Fair and Expo office. And then on the fairgrounds, I think it says 37 per person for the rides all day. A lot of people do that with kids. We have the expanded, 2 sets of rides, young kids and older kids rides. So it should be, again, really a fantastic fair like last year's was. So I think that's about everything. Do I have anything else on the fair?
Nope.
Okay, good.
So we're going to talk
So we
about...
hope you come.
There you go. Come to the fair. We're going to talk about some transportation projects. So the message here is we're transitioning from maintenance to system capacity and safety improvements. So for the last 10 or 12 years during a recession, the economy was slower. Commissioner Adair mentioned the House Bill 2017, we're adding 2 cents to our gas tax for a while into the future. We're finally able to transition from just maintaining, and these are the rural roads, not in the city of Bend, but everywhere in between, maintaining them to adding capacity and safety improvement. So we're going to go through some of those projects right now.
So there's a couple I'm going to talk about. The first one is we're actively involved in Deschutes County
Next one.
on both helping fund the North Corridor improvements on 97, and then also trying to work with people in Washington, including our congressmen and senators, to get the funding from the federal government. There's an application in for what's called an infra grant, and so we've worked with that. So we really see this as probably the biggest transportation challenge that's kind of both city and county. That bottleneck at the north end of Bend going both ways, different times of the day and night. So that's one we're working on. The second one that's furthest along is in Terrebonne. They're working on a refinement plan. $20 million was set aside by the state of Oregon to figure out solutions for the kind of bottleneck there. On Friday afternoons, you'll see it. Sometimes after work, you'll see it. On Sundays, you see it. People going through, and they've come up with a plan. The recommended one is actually a couplet, so that what's currently 97 will end up be the southbound lanes of 97, and then 11th Street, which is to the east of that, will be the northbounds. It'll be somewhat like Madras is, or Sandy when you go through Sandy, but we're not finalized on that. But then there's improvements on the circles down here are Lower Bridge Road, so there's going to be improvements there for all the backups and the safety risks there.
I was on the Tumalo Advisory Committee. We have about 20,000 people a day that are on Highway 20 coming from Sisters to Bend. And so that board met several times. We have, as a county, have already contributed $1.1 million to that project. We're going to eventually, we're on the hook for $7.8 million. The costs that we were told were over $13 million for the roundabout. So they're still working and finalizing that project. It will take a little bit of time to happen. I believe Terrebonne should happen before it. But definitely there is a need. We have a safety need there. It's really hard to get out of that community at different times of the day. So a lot of work has been done by ODOT and the county together. And then this is my favorite project because this is back from the horse and buggy days in 1916. Over in Redmond, there was an intersection with 6 different roads crossing. Quite frightening. It's taken us over 100 years to fix it, but the project is starting the end of July, and it should be done in October. Can you imagine, though? And traffic was quite fast there. So it's a good idea. They've added all the land they needed to, and they will be finishing that project this fall. So let's hope for good weather.
Now, you promised us you were going to throw in, this was planned when this was Crook County.
Oh,
So,
I forgot that. Oh, gosh.
Deschutes County broke off of
Yes, we
from
were
Crook
formed
County.
in 1916. So this actually preceded that. We are the actually youngest county in the state, if you can believe that. So we are probably one of the luckiest counties if you talk to people all over the state, because we are so blessed with our beauty. And but we did have that road intersection, and thank you, Crook. And then the last one that I need to address is the safety issue out at Ward Hamby Road. It's a serious, serious safety issue because of the accidents, the fatalities that have happened out there. The state ODOT has special funding for that, of which we are contributing $500,000. But that's a project that I kept saying, oh, please, can't we move that up to the top? It's not at the top yet, but it is going to be taking place. So thank you for ODOT finally listening and getting that one safer for our residents.
So just a quick note, so those are all routes, east and west and north, in and out of Bend, and those are all for throughput. Safety and throughput is what we're looking at. Partners with ODOT, those are ODOT roads, but it's the cross sections and the off-highway improvements that would bring Deschutes County in on that. So those are all being planned.
So the next topic we're going to talk about is affordable housing. In the last couple of years, the county has been involved in 2 pilot projects. The one east of Bend was a parcel that we rezoned from exclusive farm use to multiple use, which was then available to a state program for affordable housing, and it's a privately developed project, which is in planning right now and through the Bend. And then in the last legislature, this was something that different cities could apply to do a affordable housing project outside the urban growth boundaries. The only other city that did an application was Redmond, but they didn't get picked. So they went back to the legislature, and the help of our legislators, Representative Helt and Zika and our senators, et cetera. So there's a 40-acre, the next slide. The 40-acre parcel in Redmond that's also going to be an affordable housing pilot project outside urban growth boundaries. This is on land that the county owns, and we're part of participating in kind of the development of that. So we'll have the only 2 pilot projects in the state of Oregon to do some unique affordable housing that the state so badly needs.
So let's talk land use associated with some of this. So we've got about 20% of the land in Deschutes County is privately owned, developable land. The zoning includes, and this is outside the cities, rural residential, multiple use agriculture, EFU, exclusive farm use. And you can see there's some large parcel activity out there. And we're working, trying to figure a process, a path through this for non-prime resource lands. There's a statewide land use system. It's one prescription for every jurisdiction in the state of Oregon. The UGB expansion is a need for land. There's already parcelized lands out in the rural county. So we're working on a project called non-prime resource lands. They could be available for other uses other than the ruralness, which is a term Commissioner Henderson has used. Could be used for affordable housing also. This is a little section that is like straight east of where I live, just walking distance from almost where I live. That area zoned or wrapped in the yellow, it's zoned EFU, exclusive farm use. But it was done like that as a catch-all in the late 70s after we kind of debated about all the different land uses. It was the catch-all. The default zoning is resource land on parcels. And it was probably that point where it got to be 80, 85%, 90% was pretty clear about how things were going to be zoned. And then there was this last bit that everybody just stopped talking about it. Well, let's just call it resource land. So my thought is, there probably wasn't the intention to be talking about this 40 years later. When somebody wants to put a house out there, they have to do an application process. They have to pay thousands of dollars, and it's a non-farm dwelling on this residential style rural property. So I'm making a case, kind of publicly here about the fact that there's a reason we're talking about non-prime resource land. We're trying to evolve into the state land use system, the pressure of being able to build houses on existing parcelized lands. So making the case for that. There's other examples around the county, but also, as I say, farmland, even larger parcel farmlands that are rocky, unirrigated, rural parcels. Maybe there's a different a line in there somewhere. We call them non-prime resource land. And this is just a term that we came up with, but we're trying to have that discussion. So then the other part of this is 40 and 50 years later, after land use has been in place, it's evolving. People are, population growth is happening. We probably need to have a conversation about what land use looks like in the state of Oregon. So that's the big picture at the whole state level. So I'm asking for support for just allowing us to proceed with this, and I'm just referring to the different sides that have different opinions on it.
And I think Commissioner DeBone's speaking really for all 3 of us. In summarizing that, we've talked about this a lot in the last several years and what can go on outside the urban growth boundaries. And I think you're going to see it. It is one of the, if you're in business in Bend, this is the Bend Chamber, so if you have business, you're having issues, keeping employees, hiring employees, it's not going to get easier, in really in our opinions, to with the housing costs, et cetera, unless we do come up with some creative, and that's what we're really looking to do. We're not looking to ruin the environment. There's, 80% of our county is in federal lands, as Commissioner DeBone said, so that's really going to remain rural or forested, desert, et cetera, probably forever. So we're talking about a smaller portion, but we want to protect the values of the community, but also see the opportunities for how we go forward with some of this is an important need.
There we go.
So 911.
I remember last year sitting here, and there were a lot of questions about our 911 system, how adequate it was, what was going on. But I think we can sit here today and say that the system is operating at a much higher level. We will have the Overturf Butte Tower finished in October, and the really good news is a county employee who has been with us for 21 years has stepped up, and she has been chosen, Sarah Crosswhite, as our director. It was so good to hear all the different heads of the police and the fire at the 911 meeting that I was sitting at a couple months ago say, what a great job Sarah did. She came into a very difficult situation. She handled it with total grace, listened to the problems, and solved the problems. And so now we have someone running our program that I believe we all can be very, very proud of and happy that she's there. We're still dependent on, I noticed the system went down for like 5 minutes the other day because the state system went down briefly, but we have backups, and I do believe any officer that you could talk to now will say it's working so much better. So thank you for your patience, and I believe we've accomplished a lot in the last year.
So solid waste, just so you know that we've talked about it, I think last year that we were working on this. So we're kind of on the verge of being presented a plan for what we do in the future. We've spent a lot of time thinking about whether we build a new disposal site in the county, or whether we haul. The other option is to haul waste all the way to the Columbia Gorge to one of the 4 or 5 sites up there. And there's a lot of debate on that. We've tried to get a feel of what the community wants to do. We've done we hired a consultant and did a study on this, and that's going to be presented to us this spring. And we're also, another challenge within solid waste is what to do about recycling. The markets have kind of fallen out for a lot of recycled products that we'd gotten used to trying to recycle. A lot of it went to overseas, particularly to China and other countries, and they don't particularly want it now, so that's a challenge. So those are things we're working on right now. We're on cell 8. We've got 3 more cells left to build, and then our current landfill will be done. But we're going to look at some other improvements as well on the Negus station, transfer station in Redmond as well.
So remember, the cost of solid waste disposal is what pays for that. It's our enterprise fund, its own income and expenses. So we're funding the cell creation with those dollars. We just had a blast out there. There's like a rock shelf that once it's gone, there's another X amount of feet deep of dirt underneath it. So that's how we get to the bottom of the cell. It's created with a liner, very high tech, very environmentally safe, the liners that are out there. Just a few more cells to be built. So then that puts us at a future date, and we're talking about 10 years from now. And if you remember, 10 years ago, it was talked about maybe 10 years from now. But it's all a function of how much waste is going in there, how much we're recycling, and it's just the big picture of the economic activity. So we're going to be starting to make those kind of once-in-a-lifetime, once-in-a-career choices, because one way or another, it's going to be filled. So we're going to set direction to this. We have the solid waste management plan has come in, and we're going to be laying it out on the table in front of the commissioners here pretty soon, and really starting to get serious about what are the big options and what does it look like 10 years from now? So that decision needs to be made 10 years into the future because of land use and some of the franchise agreements and the big choices that are out there. So that's working, and we want people to understand that it is a big choice. It doesn't happen every 50 years or so. So that's really something we're emphasizing this evening.
I get the privilege of talking about budget highlights, and it is amazing, but our county rating by Moody's just went up from to AA1 from AA2. This was accomplished with the hard work of our finance director who just retired, Wayne Lowry. He was here with the county for 6 years. He did an amazing job during that period of time with the information, the financial information that we received. But with this bond rating increase, we actually saved hundreds of thousands of dollars with some refinancing. So it's amazing, and I told Wayne I would really like to be AAA rated, and he said that was maybe a little impossible, but you know, we can always shoot for the moon, so it would be helpful. You notice that your property tax bill, that very small portion on the bill, it's around 18%. We are keeping that down, that 6 cents of increase. I know it doesn't amount to too much money, but it was what we could do to help you keep a little more money where we felt we could do that for the community and still maintain our extremely high levels. We also had, we've had several months of investigation over our crisis center, the stabilization center. We did a lot of research. I just came on board in January, and so I really wanted to see some of the different facilities in the state. We're underway now. That facility, it's the small brick building in between the Oregon State Police and the Sheriff's Office. It should open up in, I hope, 8 months from today. So that is going to be a very important part of our county, diverting people from the jail and also possibly some people from St. Charles if that's not where they really need to go. So our mental health program is going to move into that building for the most part, and it's going to be there for you, the county, to access if you need that help. We added 5 new positions for the Sheriff's Department this year with our budget, and we added 6 new positions in the DA's office, so really focusing on your safety. Oh, I also wanted to acknowledge that our new finance director, Greg Munn, is here this evening with his wife, and thank you, Greg. We're glad to have him part of our team.
So for economic development, there's a long, great history, partnership. This is the Chamber of Commerce here, so thank you for being a small business owner and being involved in the economy. EDCO is our traded sector front end of the Tri-County area, so they do the really the bigger recruiting and retention expansion efforts. One of the really great announcements, and Damon Runberg, I don't know that he's here this evening, but State Department economist, came up with the terminology. We've transitioned to a metropolitan economy in Central Oregon, which is kind of awkward thinking, no, I like to live in the small town in the rural place, but we have diversified. We see high-tech manufacturing in Redmond. We see biotechnology in Bend. We see home-based businesses, high-tech businesses, software development. So we really have diversified that economy. We referring to everybody, you know, the city councils, the chambers, the EDCO itself. So this is something to celebrate. In fact, we added a little chapter in our county profile budget document this year. It went from rural timber resources to recreational to second homes and those kind of concepts to a metropolitanly diversified economy. So very exciting. We still have a business loan fund, Deschutes County, and this started in the recession, thinking what can we do to really help somebody get that business started. I think of it as those last dollars in when a project is really coming together, maybe a computer or a desk or a little bit of amenities for a company. So generally it could be thought of as maybe $2,000 per job, but it really is traded, equates to traded sector jobs too. So EDCO is our agent for that, and we approve those loans, and we've been able to write a loan off to a grant many times over the years, and it's very exciting.
So one of the things that also we've been involved in is some of the land use projects, et cetera. So one that we mentioned there is the West Side Transect, and that's a development on the west side of Bend where it's kind of a combination of how do you develop an area that's not developable in dense housing for lack of infrastructure, et cetera. But also you have the issues with regard to fire danger coming from the west. It was if you have dense housing next to the fire and the Forest Service, forest areas, it's a risk. So that was something we worked on as a proposal from the city of Bend had approved this change of zoning from urban density to more sparse density. So it's a way that that area can develop, but also be safe and fire, and just kind of an innovative thing we wanted to highlight.
We're also working currently on updating the master plan for the Bend Airport. We're tweaking a couple parts of that project out in the county, and we are also, the helicopter location is being reevaluated to the northeast part of the airport, so I didn't want to miss that. But I was also given the privilege of talking about childcare, and I know what a desert we live in when you need childcare. The county currently has 42 spots. We'll add 8 more spots for our childcare, but that's really not even enough for our employees. Laura, who works in our administrative office, doesn't have her child there, so I said we need it to be bigger, and we're talking about that. We did just give a permit to a childcare facility in Sun River in the business park for 42. I know that's not enough, and I know we need to do more from the county. So please know that we will be discussing that in the future. And the other thing that is kind of an exciting announcement is last weekend, for the first time, parking. You know how parking is in downtown Bend, and you've got all those events on the street. We were able to open up the county parking lot to the public starting Friday nights. Hopefully, maybe they'll do some kind of little shuttle. I don't know what kind of shoes you wear, but sometimes I don't want to walk 3 miles down to Wall Street. But we're right there. It's 500 spots, and I think it will be a great addition. So for the weekend, know that you can use it, and we're really pleased to be able, it's a win-win. It's a win for the city and the county to work together as a team. So thank you for getting that done as quickly as possible.
So real quick, we're just going to tell you that, legislature just ended, and we do try to get involved in a few issues. This was a tough session to accomplish some of them, but we did, as we mentioned, we testified on behalf of the Redmond Affordable Housing Pilot Project, which was successful. We testified on the Carbon Reduction Committee with regard to the costs to the county that we'd incur if that was passed. Commissioner Adair specifically spent a lot of time trying to lobby with regard to a veterans court, which was passed in the legislature. The forest land urban legislation, you want to talk about that a minute?
So there's some history from the state legislature talking about a fuel reduction, personal responsibility on your private property, and that was years ago. So this is a reminder to the legislature itself to have the Department of Forestry work with the residents to do fuel reduction efforts. So that's House Bill 2222. It was handed off from Gene Wisnett to Jack Zika, and it passed. So that's a really good, it's going to be a partnership with the State Department of Forestry to help private property owners do fuel reduction. Some properties just get, they're remotely owned and they really get overgrown. People don't even know it. This is that notification process from the State Department of Forestry saying you do have some requirements on reducing that fuel, and that did pass.
Another one was there had been some legislation that there should be an increase in the state police, and the original bill had that they were going to start in 2030, which seems like kind of ways out there to add state police. And they actually successfully increased the staff. I think it's 32 new officers in this coming biennium. A couple of priorities we have in the next session, which is coming up, and we'll be talking to Representative Helt and others about this. One is with regard to, we didn't have any luck getting another judge. We're not really sure why. This was really our number one goal. We haven't added another judge in Deschutes County since 2003, when the population was nearly 60,000 people less. And it's caused a real backlog in the court system, and it's part of the problem we have with when you hear about challenges getting to court, if it's in civil matters, criminal matters, et cetera. And we really worked hard on that. We were told right up to the end that we were going to get a judge, so they ended up only adding a couple, and we're not really clear why that is, but we're going to work on that for the next session. And also with the ability to have accessory dwelling units in rural rural areas in Deschutes County. You know, there's a lot of rural houses in Deschutes County on EFU land, MUA land. There's quite a bit of land in Deschutes County that isn't intensively farmed, and it would be a help both to people needing smaller homes like they are in the city of Bend and Redmond, but also for homeowners out there that need are paying a lot of money for land, et cetera. So we're supportive of that legislation, and fortunately it didn't get any further this year, but those are a couple things.
I do want to add, do you guys realize that we have half as many state police as we had in 1980? It's really amazing. So the fact that they did allow in the funding for 32 more officers, we're going to have to really stay on top of that to make sure that they follow through with that. But we need more state police. Parts of the county are served by them, and also they have to go east. For some counties, it's the only police they have in their whole county. So it's a really huge need. And as far as the new judge, if we don't get the judge by February of next year in the short session, I think that Deschutes County should go over there and sit on the steps of the Capitol, because it was so unfortunate. We were promised. Everyone said, oh no, you're going to get that new judge. And we desperately need a new judge. Redmond has doubled since we have gotten a judge, and it's just not acceptable. And I know Representative Helt gave an impassioned speech for us and getting our new judge. So I'm hoping that we won't have to sit on the Capitol steps March 1st, but if we do, I'm going to be there because I think it's extremely important. And I also would like to form a group, because I think our ADUs are so important for affordable housing in our communities, in our rural. We have such a housing problem. There's a group called 1,000 Friends, and I think we need to have a group called 3,000 Friends. So we have a lot of housing here to worry about in Deschutes, and I believe it's one of the ways that we can help that issue.
So at this point, we're just going to kind of go through kind of freewheeling a little bit with some different thoughts.
Yeah, and then this is going to be our last slide, and then we'll answer questions. I'll start, and just in terms of priorities, I've talked a little bit about housing. The other thing that I've been on several committees for is the Deschutes Collaborative Forest and the cohesive strategies for fire and our rural properties and the risks we're at. And I think that's something that we're all involved in different ways. But for me, it's just seems like nothing could tip the scales of the livability here more than additional fires. There's been a lot of them in the years I've been here, but I think what we've seen in other areas of the West Coast is something that we're all very concerned about. So both the smoke related to the fires can be bad, what we had 2 years ago, or just the fires and the huge risk to all of us. So that's a big priority for me.
Okay, I get to go next. All right, guys. I've been telling everyone I have to send emails to Shane. 2 weeks ago, we were at Black Butte having lunch and heard about the person in the BMW driving 127 miles per hour right out on Highway 20. We had a fatality accident last year of, I believe, 4 people out there. People are driving so fast. Sitting by an officer, he had ticketed somebody the day before going 96. Okay, so that's a couple weeks ago. I stop at the station out in Sisters, talk to them. Sheriff Nelson has done a lot of things. Talk to the commissioners from Jefferson County. We need to talk to the state police. We need to do something. People need to slow down. Have you guys ever noticed when you're driving down the road, the speed limit, that you are going backwards? Well, a week ago, I'm at the Lapine Fire Station right south of Crosswater, and I go in and talk to them. The man that was in the ambulance with the critically injured person from an accident heading to St. Charles, the ambulance going 90 miles an hour with the lights flashing, they're passed. So, oh my gosh, yes. Anyway, I got to email Shane again. We have to slow down. If we slow down, I tried it this weekend. I tried to go 65 back from Lapine to Bend, and it was amazing. Not as many people passed me as I thought. So please slow down. Enjoy your summer.
So I want to do a special thanks to the staff of Deschutes County, the culture of Deschutes County. We've got a great set of people serving you in a lot of different areas. Today we really took time just to look at the big picture and share all the different services we do. But the department heads and all the different people that provide those services for you here in Deschutes County are just outstanding individuals. We've got, as I say, that great culture of service in Deschutes County. It starts at the top, the other elected officials also. So that's the message. We are managing growth in Deschutes County. We're all going through it. It's a very exciting time. The economy is going well. There's development pressure, and we're really working hard to keep up with it. So thanks for joining us tonight, too. Next, a commercial announcement presented by Deschutes 911. So this is, the message is, and this came up, or Deschutes County is our 911 district. They always have openings for those 911 dispatchers. And we've got other departments like that. The sheriff's office, the DA's office, the health department always has people coming and going. So we created the one slide for Deschutes County 911. If anybody is interested in working with us on this, please join us. Please get involved. Learn about what it is to work with a public agency. 911 always has those. The operators are on the floor 24 hours a day, right? And then people will take a vacation or be out sick, and then somebody's got to cover, and it just gets really tight sometimes. So we're always trying to make sure it's fully staffed so people can work and serve the people here. So at that point, we are set. That's our set of slides this evening. Thank you so much for joining us, and I think we're available for questions.
Great. Thank you. Great presentation. Really, thank you so much for putting that together for us. So, lots of things to talk about. Housing, ADUs, maybe House Bill 2001, which allows for more density on certain lots across the state. Non-prime resource lands, what do we do with that? Other legislative priorities like another judge. In addition to that, crisis stabilization center, solid waste, et cetera, fire protection. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, and it's wide open. And the lovely Robin Rogers is on this side of the room. If those of you with questions, go ahead and line up behind her. And I'll take this side of the room. Does anybody want to start us off? Okay.
Wonderful.
Great. So this is my colleague Judy from Sisters Chamber of Commerce. Yay, Chambers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Adair, you mentioned infrastructure project in Tumalo. I actually commute from Bend to Sisters every day, and I was wondering if you had a projection on when that Tumalo infrastructure project would start. I know all the details probably aren't all there, but it is one of the most dangerous places I've ever seen in Deschutes County, so I'd appreciate that moving
When you
on
think it's going to
quickly.
start?
Yes.
I believe that Terrebonne is going to happen before it. So, yes, Judy, we're passing each other. You're going to Sisters and I'm going to Bend. I know we wave. It's probably going to be, it's not going to happen I don't think next year, but they've been doing a lot of the preliminary work. We've given them that 1.1 million for plans for funding. So if they do the roundabout, the property they have to obtain is approximately $1 million worth of property to obtain, if that's the decision they go ahead with. So, the sooner the better, I know. It's been a need for a long time.
I know that was talked about and included when a group of us went to Washington, D.C. to talk about the infra grant request. I think part of the funding for that is wrapped up in that as well. At least we talked about it as a full package of county, state, and local investments that match the federal investments for the North Corridor project. Yeah,
I
hopefully
think the
it'll come
goal
on.
for these projects is to get them designed, engineered, and ready. Because then, as I say, the federal government funding, state planning dollars for how they're going to implement the projects around the state with ODOT. So getting it ready is the best thing we can do right now. So it's not scheduled, but it's going to be real close to being scheduled.
Thank you. Robin, do you have another question?
Hi, Fran McCormick. I looked up your community development non-prime resource land as soon as you brought it up. There are 4 different projects planned, but there are no maps. There's no locations. Is there some place where we can pick up that information?
I think the answer is going to be yes on that. So you're looking at that front page of that. The Planning Commission has, this is getting real mature. In fact, I think Thursday night we're talking about it, the Planning Commission. So if it's not on that website, we'll make sure to get it there. But we also have it in a packet for the next meeting. So it's not real far from there. It's just not in the place you're looking. We can get those maps.
Okay, thank you.
And in fact, we'll put it on that website because our community development director's nodding.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very much so.
Yeah.
We'll put it right there.
So
Okay.
those are actually 4 specific rural kind of subdivisions, like Commissioner DeBone was talking about, that exist already, but that are zoned different than the way they're used. So that's what those 4 parcels are.
Another question?
Well, congratulations on the stabilization center. We're excited for that. I've asked that question every year. Is that planned to be a 24-hour or is that business hours?
23
So-
3-hour,
23 hours.
right, for licensing purposes. Yes, we've talked to the health department, do we need a longer-term facility? And according to what I was told, only once did they have to send someone to Portland that needed longer-term care, that they'd always been able to place them in Bend or Redmond in our county. So, it's interesting. It's something that we know is critical. I spent this morning in a 3-hour meeting regarding homelessness, and those numbers keep going up. What are we doing? The numbers are going up, and people move from one camp to the other, and I thank you for the Bethlehem Inn and all that you do and your expansion, and, what is it we can do that will, we should talk later.
So, and I'll add a little bit to that. So the licensing requirements, if a person stays more than 23 hours, is a different kind of facility. So basically, it's set up so somebody can stay up to 23 hours. The idea at this point is it's open from sometime in the morning, 7 or 8, until 8 or 9 or 10 at night. They don't necessarily take in people in the middle of the night, but those haven't been worked out. But it's that classification of a stabilization. So it's not the other option is one where people can stay multiple days, but it has to have different kinds of licensing, and requirements are quite a bit more complicated. So we're starting with the simpler one. That's been the one that our health department's identified as the biggest need. So it's kind of a stabilizing people in crisis. It's not necessarily resolving all of them. It's not a...
So
Yeah,
Right.
that's the plan at this point. It'll be funded
Yes.
7 days
7 days a week,
and
23
and
hours.
try to meet all the needs.
we have staff on 24 hours a day, crisis staff, and they're riding along with the officers, and they're on call and available. The facility itself is going to be a drop-off location for those people in need. But yeah, for long-term care, we have private providers that will be able to take people, and within a couple hours, we're going to be dispatching them. So this isn't an overnight facility, and it's really not intended for that. But we have people on 24/7 all the time dealing with these cases.
One other thing on there's been a lot of stories about the stabilization center, and we've had a lot of questions. What we're really doing is bringing in our crisis. We have a variety of crisis-related staff. They're moving to this new building, and there's a stabilization center as part of it. So it really fills both needs. It's bringing it all together in one place. So.
Thank you. Next question.
So I have a follow-up question, but first I want to say thank you for all you do, and thank you for being involved in Salem issues, because I think that's something that the county can have a good voice in. Follow-up question to Stabilization Center. Is it going to be able to house or work with minors or not? And what's the plan there after?
I don't think that immediately it's going to be. We've talked about that, and we talked about that with the hospital, but there's a different requirement. There are places where families and minors could work, but the main place where people that have accessed the stabilization center will be, there's apparently laws about separating people above, the age of whatever, 18 or 21 from minors. So it doesn't have both at this time.
So it is located at the public safety campus. We do have a juvenile detention center that's 24 hours also, and public safety's on. So yeah, that facility isn't made for under 18, I'm sure, but we have the services walking distance away.
Thank you. Question from this side of the room.
Yes, I wanted to get a little more detail on the plans for the next generation of solid waste disposal. You mentioned 10 years plus or minus based on current tipping amounts and so forth. What is the timeline for figuring out whether we're doing it here in Deschutes County or outsourcing it to somewhere else, and kind of how does that process work?
Well, so the current plan is we've had a solid waste advisory committee meeting for about a year and a half, and they've, with the help of consultants, they've kind of gone through these issues, and I think they're going to make a presentation to us in the next month or so, and we'll probably be making a decision this year about which direction we're going. And one thing that's pretty interesting is that for 25 years there hasn't been another solid waste site located in the state of Oregon. They're very kind of lengthy, and sometimes there's opposition to citing them. There's a lot of practical reasons and economic reasons where it looks like it's better to do it locally than transport it all to the Columbia Gorge, where the big, massive solid waste site. So we're going to look at those options. The other thing that's kind of new is the issue of emissions and from the trucks. That's an environmental factor that wasn't thought about as much 20 years ago as it is now. So that'll be kind of weighing in. But I think it'll be this year that we'll probably make a decision on direction and start that.
We're currently doing a survey on the phone, a live operator. Did any of you get that call? No? Okay. Well, anyway, we did do a survey. We had people fill out forms, but we really wanted to hear from you. And I believe it was running pretty much to leave it in Deschutes County. So it's just going to be, will we be able to fight that battle and actually find a location where it can be approved?
I have one real quick question and then another one. The quick one is, do they put roundabouts on highways?
In Oregon, they do.
Okay, so the Ward Road, Highway 20 could be a roundabout?
That's what it's.
That's what their plan, okay.
Yes.
Okay, that was a quick one. The other one is, you mentioned that you needed help or you wanted to do something about the ADU,
Right.
3,000 Friends. What can we do to help you?
Well, it just seems like we had Nick Lilac was part of Senate Bill 88. Nick worked diligently on this bill. We thought it was going to make it through the legislature. You know, we were doing everything we could. And so, but they kept kind of stalling it, that stall game. And so Nick is doing what he can, and then it ends up that I believe one of the co-chairs of the committee really didn't want it. So it got killed. So, if you are interested in helping, I do believe if we had a group of like 3,000, we could make that difference. We have to do something, and it's a positive. It's a win-win. You can have a small ADU on your property. Nick knows all the details of what they worked out this past year, and we need to bring that back and really support it. So we'd love to have your name. Thank you.
Thank you. Another question from this side of the room.
They've been talking about the North Highway 97 reroute since I arrived here about 23 years ago. And I work in commercial real estate. It's my day job. And a lot of property owners there are in a kind of state of uncertainty as to what's going to happen in the future. So is there any realistic time frame on when that might happen?
We're standing by for a big federal grant. The application's been put in, and the decision is coming. So it may kind of pop. And it's on the list. It's ready to go. ODOT has a high priority there. But that's the majority of the funding, and it's federal dollars. So if that doesn't come, it'll end up being a smaller project, a short-term solution. There's a full interchange that we're talking about there, and it's a big project. But it kind of needs to be that big because of the accelerated growth we're seeing here, because it's just getting worse. Call your congressman, or if you have connections in Washington. But it's coming. It sounds like we were just below the line last year because there was another cycle of these grants. So we may be there this year, but it's that awkward spot of federal dollars.
Next question.
Hi, I'm just curious, as when I saw your priorities, House Bill 2020 was listed as one of your priorities, and I'm curious as to why you're supporting it when so many of our local legislators are not, including Representative Helt,
said
who
you
we
were
have here tonight.
Yeah, you said we were.
The climate bill.
Climate,
Yes,
So,
the cap and
yeah,
trade
cap and
bill.
trade.
No, we actually testified against it in terms of the costs it would create, and we looked at it from a county perspective on transportation and
It
fuels,
was
et
just one of
cetera.
your priorities, so.
Yeah, so
maybe
it
I
was, we
misread.
testified, and we didn't
against
talk
it.
about
Yeah, it was-
position, but all three of us sat side by side in front of the committee going around the state, and we all come to that same conclusion. It's like, this may not be the right thing for rural, you know, there's just the whole list of things, the cost of doing government would go way up, so we were opposing.
Okay, great. I just,
Yeah.
when it said priority, I was a little,
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
was a little confused, so thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question. I have a follow-up question for you folks. Talking about the fire prevention procedures, especially in outlying areas, and all the hard work that you folks have been working on in the last year or two. Can you talk about some of the primary tactics and strategies that you are using, especially in outlying low-density neighborhoods as the firewall, as it were, and share with us what the strategy is and what the implementation would look like?
So for many years, Deschutes County has in county code that we shall have a committee that really promotes fuel reduction. So it's Project Wildfire is the name of it. We meet monthly, we have staff, and we do have our Deschutes County forester, Ed Keith. As I say, the county doesn't have forested lands to manage, but everybody has land and it has fuel on it. So the rural county, Project Wildfire's intention is to invite neighborhood association representatives to come join us, learn about what defensible space is, getting the needles and wood away from the base of the house, getting the gutters cleared out, so you could be more resilient in that ember shower situation if there's a fire. So that is the kind of one of the low-lying pieces. We're also big-time partners with all the fire agencies, and Central Oregon works together very well on this. And the Forest Service does the wildland urban interface cleanup. And that's the collaborative work that's been going on. I'll hand it off to you from there.
Yeah. So today we had the Deschutes Forest Collaborative Project, and that's a group of, a pretty broad group of people, including people from the cities. Mayor Russell's the chair of that right now, and Keith, our forester, is the vice chair. And we spent a lot of time looking at the issues of thinning, mechanical mowing, et cetera, and prescribed burns in all the forest, U.S. Forest Service lands around the community. So that's a big part of what we're involved with in terms of being in those committees, giving input to that. And then a second thing that we're involved in, the state of Oregon just adopted a new building code that they're suggesting for more at-risk neighborhoods. And so we'll be evaluating that and whether we want to implement it in parts of Deschutes County. It's kind of hard because you have to do it in areas that are fire risk areas, I'll call them, and currently the whole county is. Well, it's a change of building codes. It's fairly significant, so we kind of have to weigh that out, but that's another thing we're looking at. So those are a couple of other acts.
Early this spring, I ordered 1,000 business cards that had the rules, the 10 defensible space rules on the back of the card, and I actually gave all those cards out. And so I just reordered today another 1,000 cards. The sheriff's office saw my cards and thought they were a great idea. We really need to educate new people to our community that don't understand what they should be doing. Please don't use any more bark. You know, you have to use colored rock. I mean, there's a lot of really simple things that you can do to make your house so much more defensible. I'm actually going to go door to door out in Sisters because one of my neighbors said they were really worried. They were right by the fire last year that burned a couple homes, and they said, Patti, our neighbors still aren't doing a good enough job. And so I said, okay, I'll go door to door with you and explain to them the seriousness of it. Because when a fire, you know the fire's going to start at some point, but you have to be prepared. So it's really important. Read the rules and really take them to heart. And we have the free day at the transfer station. I believe those numbers were up like 20% in Deschutes County. So thank you all that did take part and did a lot of cleanup. And then in the fall, it's half price. So do your cleanup now. You never know. We just had a lot of thunder and lightning, a week or so ago, with a lot of rain too. Anyway, we've got to be prepared. So everybody do your part.
Along those lines, I would like to advocate for a biomass facility, make electricity from burning wood. So one of the tricks there, and we've been talking about it in the Lapine area for many years, is the output, the cost of creating that electricity is almost double what we pay for electricity at our house. So we talk about this carbon bill and how we want to make a law to save the environment and these different things, and this is very tangible locally. So how would we get to that spot where we're going to pay twice as much for electricity, but then we could have a market for the biomass itself? So that is a struggle we've been dealing with. I know there's in John Day, the torrefaction factory, there's a big project going on over there right now, and that's the alternative for bringing coal up to the Boardman. They could use torrefied wood products instead of coal. So there's opportunities in there, as well as just the local clean up your backyard, be a defensible space. But it's tricky with the market and the cost of energy.
All right, thank you. Anyone else with a question? Because I got one. Because
here
we're
we
the
go.
Bend Chamber of Commerce, I wanted to ask each of you to think about what the top 2 or 3 things are that the county can do in the near future to help spur economic development, workforce growth. How do we attract and retain both businesses and a healthy workforce from the county perspective?
Well, I'll lead off. I mean, I've said this the last couple of budget meetings. We have EDCO, and then we have COVA come up, and different groups we work with. And I think it's just, it's the as a county commissioner, my perspective is that business people have to be outspoken about housing needs and making some changes to find housing for people. I think we're way too timid on this problem, and I think no one speaks for those people that need housing. And when I was walking for an election 2.5 years ago, I'd go into houses and there'd be, parents living with kids. I'd go somewhere else, kids are living with parents. Every employer has problems finding housing for their new employees that they find. But I don't hear enough business leaders at the forefront of that, saying we've got to do what we need to do to make this happen. So as a commissioner, I see that as a broad thing across the whole county, because it's true in Sisters, it's true in Redmond, even Lapine. So that's one of mine. I'll let the others share theirs.
So the land use is one of the things that's on our desk, and it's the rural land use, but it's also the urban growth boundary land use, and it's the state land use system that's kind of a tense system right now because it's aging. So really advocating for that and having the discussion right out on the table about why are we opposing something that seems reasonable to some people, and this is our society and our environment right now. Things are pretty tense politically, but the land use is something that we can really affect and we have some authority over. Also, just philosophically, this is your government. I'm elected, I'm honored to be representing, but as your government, to be clear and decisive, so if a business person needs to make a decision, they know what the answer is from your government. And I advocate for that through all the agencies also. Because nothing would be worse than getting different responses from different departments about what their opinions might be. What are the facts and what are we going to do? So being a good reference point and a stable level of government for those business people.
I've mentioned earlier how important I think the ADU is in the county. It's something that I will really fight for this next year, and I know that if I have more people part of that team, I think we can make a difference. I know that our legislatures will be right there with us. They tried, but next year is another year, and it is really critical, and 3,000 friends is a big deal. I am currently serving on the Sisters Horizon Vision Workshop. It's actually implementing the vision that was just implemented recently. Now, Sisters it took over 8 years to sell the Forest Service property. So things are now happening. The industrial park in Sisters is filling up. A lot of really good things are happening out in Sisters. I know it's not Bend, but it is part of our county, and it's part of the area that I represent, so I think it's a great deal. And another thing I just learned when I was at La Pine is they were asking me to please see if I hear of any smaller hotel. They could use a really smaller hotel, and that just goes with tourism and what's going on. A lot of things are happening. A lot of families are moving to La Pine. In fact, we're currently working on a lower income housing project in La Pine, which will be extremely beneficial for South County. So, you know, those are all things. I did hear that our salaries are could use a little bit of help for the area, and I realize that with our loan program to help businesses really get going, I think that's, you know, we love it when they can come and ask us for that help and, you know, get more people with family wages here.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from the audience? Because it's about time to wrap up. Greatly appreciate you. Somebody?
We have one more right
One
here.
last question.
There you go.
What is the county doing to support OSU Cascades?
Well, one thing we did 2 years ago was we basically donated the landfill, our demolition landfill on the west side to OSU Cascades to be able to develop that into their site. It seems like the big problem is getting enough funding, and we've asked if they want help. Really, would be a lobbyist just like everybody else. But it seems like we're in a competitive market with every other community that has a college, and that's where college funding comes from. So that would be our biggest thing we could do, I guess, would be as representatives of the whole county population. A lot of local people want to go to school there, so that would be. But those are about the two things we could do.
We spent a lot of time going to Salem this year, and I believe you might not see much of an impact, but I believe that next year it's going to really help. They know who we are, and they know that we are really serious about our county and supporting our county and what is good for you, the people of Deschutes. So, you know, funding definitely should be coming around for OSU.
Okay, thank you very much. Want to thank each of you for all the time you've given us tonight and your service to our county. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having us.
Okay. A reminder, October is State of the City, and please join us for that. Otherwise, have a great evening and have a great summer. Thank you.